Good morning, everyone. My name is Vincent, and I'm joined by my co-founder, Jamie Cerexhe. And we'll be delivering to you today, live, our Series A fundraising webinar, where we're going to be looking at what's in store for our technology going into the future. So we're really excited for today. And just a quick note before we do begin, that everyone is muted so that we don't get any background noise. And if you do have a question, please throw it into the chat. We'll address it at the end. And we're really keen to hear from you about this webinar, feedback on our system, any advice you might have for us. And don't worry too much about taking notes. This recording will be provided to everyone who attended after the webinar, as well as the slides. So with that said, we'll crack straight into it. And the journey of our business and today's webinar toward our Series A fundraising is very much intertwined with my own history as a project manager. And when I joined this industry over 10 years ago, it was to my disbelief that I found everyone managing their projects using spreadsheets. And these were not small projects. We're talking huge hospitals, naval wharves, schools, and everyone's recording all of the finances, all of the risks in spreadsheets. And it was kind of no wonder to me that we see all of these huge projects and programs, blowing out. How are they controlling the governance, and how are they controlling all of the rules around the way in which these projects are delivered? And it wasn't just one project or one asset class that I was seeing this. This was across a range of asset owners. So I was fortunate enough to be working for a large consulting company, delivering projects and programs in federal government, right through to the education sector, down also to property developers. And everyone was doing it the same way. They were all reporting on all of their projects using spreadsheets. And so this was very painful for me as I started to discover, and I'm quite disbelieving, that everyone would have all of these spreadsheets for managing the finances, all of these Microsoft project files for tracking the schedule, and all of these registers and spreadsheets for tracking all of the risks. And then every month they would, copy and paste, right click, copy into various status reports and also monthly project reports. And this was, a lot of effort for these individuals to be maintaining a number of different siloed systems to prepare reports on a regular cadence. And so I was just pulling my hair out with this as a young project manager, trying to look good, preparing my reporting. And I was always wondering, am I doing the right thing? Am I following the rules the way in which my client wants me to? But it wasn't until I got to this program level where I had moved away from project level tasks, building spreadsheets and building reports. And I was now the one receiving all of the spreadsheets in a program. And this was very, very difficult for me to not only receive 40 different spreadsheets and 40 different projects and aggregate it, but it was also very hard to standardize all of the governance across all of the projects that I was managing. And it was very, very difficult indeed to be able to identify these cross-project interdependencies without that standardization, so that I could make, efficient and effective decisions on where to steer these projects and the program. And then above me in the PMO level, at that enterprise level, there's really no data that's being captured and fed back into the organization to generate lessons learned. And this is detracting from the organization's ESG score and is not really mitigating risks and issues before they occur. So around 2.5 years ago, Jamie and I decided that we had had enough of this, and we founded Mastt, which is a really neat, elegant and automated solution for client-side project managers, PMOs, and the asset owners that we serve to deliver their capital works programs. And what Mastt provides is, never before possible live interactive reporting across all the projects, programs and portfolios in real time, so that you don't have to wait 30, 60 or even 90 days for a report. And all of those artifacts that need to be produced happen automatically, so that individuals don't have to dart between spreadsheets and Word documents and PDF files to do the work they need to do. And now, with our rich data and rich information that we have in the system, we're able to provide deep analytics back to our customers for decision-making on future projects going forward. So it's been a fantastic journey, and we've recently hit a new milestone with our Series A funding round. which comes 12 months after our seed round. So we launched the business in November 2019. We raised a $2.2 million seed round 12 months later in December 20. And now 12 months on again, we've raised a $9.5 million Series A from the best of the best investors. So we're really lucky to have an absolute A-grade team behind us. And the new investor in this Series A funding round is our Innovation Ventures, OIF Ventures, who led the round. And all of our existing investors from the seed round followed on. Significant early stage capital ventures, Artesian, Investable, all followed on as institutional investors. And then we had individuals join from the industry. You'll know Rob Philpott and Lee Jasper, the two guys who founded Aconex. They've since left Aconex after they sold their business to Oracle for $1.6 billion 4 or 5 years ago. And we're also lucky to have the founders of Assignar, Sean McKenna and Chris Peterson. We've got a fantastic SaaS business now living out of the US. And then our very own Chief Product and Technology Officer, David Jablonski, joined the funding round as well. So we've got a fantastic mix of institutional investors, industry knowledge behind us. And everyone's bought into our mission of digitizing the construction industry globally. And this is quite a mission, and there's a lot of work for us to do, but we have a very focused short-term goal around what we're going to be using the new injection of capital for. So we're going to dive into today what we're spending $10 million on, and it's really across 3 key areas. So our mission to be a global business and digitize the construction industry globally means that we need to move into new markets. And we've identified the US and the Middle East as 2 key markets for us to move into. And we're fortunate to have customers in those markets already. The second area where we will be directing investment is around hiring A-grade top talent. So with the talent war going on globally, finding smart people to join our businesses in project management roles and software engineering roles is very, very difficult. And so this capital allows us the ability to hire the absolute best people so that we can deliver on our mission. And then lastly, certainly not least, we're directing $4 million or roughly 40% of the capital raised into product development and research and development. And we're very excited about what that capital injection is going to do for the product. And so when we look at the $4 million specifically, we can really break it down into 3 key areas of investment. Part 1, governance, where we've noticed a lot of our customers who join Mastt don't have the maturity or the processes and procedures in place to run a really effective and efficient project delivery or capital works delivery organization. So Mastt will be creating all of these documents and democratizing all of this governance, plans, processes, policies, and procedures so that anyone can come to our website and download them for free to get up and running quickly. And these will be ISO certifiable documentation so that you can save tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in consulting fees to produce those artifacts. So, why reinvent the wheel? And then part 2, because a lot of those governance documents typically just get thrown into the bottom drawer and collect dust, and they're very difficult to implement because they're trapped in Word documents. And so Mastt is the implementation of that governance. We make governance easy and controlled across all of the projects in the organization, boosting ESG scores to make those board level and executive level people feel comfortable that things are being run in a controlled and compliant manner. And then lastly, with all of this great data and governance and information now standardized, how do we learn from that information and give it back to our customers in real time so that they can make the most effective and swift decisions that they need to? And this is a part of the product that we're really excited about. So we're essentially bookending our current software application with governance in the front end, and then lessons learned and data collection that we're giving back to you in the back end. And we've seen this evolution before. And I like to use the example of cities and maps, where we would have town planners and architects designing these cities, roads and transportation pathways in 2D documentation. And then they used to go into a really thick, really thick yellow pages document where if you threw it across the room, it would 100% smash something. Fortunately, we're now enabled to interact with those maps through software, and Google have made that available through their Maps service. So this makes the town's governance, the city's governance easy and interactive through software. And then you could think of this data-driven lessons component as real-time feedback into where you're going or what you are doing so that you can choose the most effective pathway to your destination and identify products and services along the way. And so you can think about the direction of Mastt and how we're thinking about Mastt in that same light. So let's crack into addressing each of these parts one by one, starting with part one, governance, where we're encouraging you not to reinvent the wheel. This has been done before. And so what we're doing and why it's cool, we're democratizing all of the best practice and the knowledge for everyone to use so that people don't have to, like I said a minute ago, reinvent the wheel and spend all of this money creating documents where we know someone has done this before and they know the right way to do it. And this is all going to be available online and free for our customers to use. And there'll be Mastt versions and non-Mastt versions for people who are not yet ready maybe to get up and running on a software platform like Mastt. They can maybe cherry pick some governance documentation that they need just to get started quickly that day. And this will be at all levels: projects, programs, portfolios, and even through to the internal organization. And so why is this cool? Well, governance documents are super boring to write, very, very boring. I know whenever I wrote them, it was always very, very painful, and they cost a lot of money because there's a lot of time that goes into drafting them. And most organizations, in our experience, unless they're huge, don't really have the resources or the budget to develop proper governance, let alone implement it in an effective way. And so we're creating the Mastt governance library, and that library will have a whole suite of documents at that project, program, and portfolio level, whether you're a project manager looking for artifacts or governance on your project, right up to a CEO or a CFO who might need some strategic or some compliance documentation. And so we're going to have all of these documents and templates available, from strategy and compliance, the implementation of that strategy and compliance in plans, policies, and procedures, and all of the templates necessary to interact with those plans, policies, and procedures at an operational level within projects and programs. And the beauty of this is once you get up and running and you get this governance set up for your organization with Mastt for free, when you're ready, you can replace all of those templates quickly and easily with Mastt, the most efficient way to implement that governance. And so in practice, what does this actually look like? I mean, we've all seen the risk management plans, we've all seen the matrices, and we've seen the different steps in the ISO risk management framework, but how do you actually implement it? Well, Mastt is the implementation of that framework where we have clear process around risks, causes, consequences, and their mitigations. We have an interactive risk matrice so that the users are unknowingly interacting with the correct governance as they're using the software. And all the information is captured and categorized in accordance with the framework. And then part three, what do we do with all of this great data? So that's coming up when we get to part three of this presentation. So I'm going to move on now to part two, where I'm going to introduce Jamie to talk about part three, software enhancements, and then also part two, software enhancements, and then also part three, data-driven lessons learned. So over to you, Jamie.
Thanks, Doug. So hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Cerexhe. I am one of the co-founders of Mastt, and my journey at Mastt has been focused on product development, building the software, and now in particular on R&D and where else we can evolve the software and the service to our customers. So part two, software enhancements. What I want to talk about here is something I've been working on around risk generation. And so what are we doing? We've had a really strong uptake of our risk module since it was released last year. And this has led to new research and development opportunities, like what I'll show you today. So customers have found that it's really hard to know every risk at the beginning of a project. And so what we thought was, let's use some of the new techniques, machine learning, natural language processing, to help identify relevant risks from our risk library and let the given project know that those are also a factor, and you can choose to accept them into your project. A risk register generator option would be available on Mastt in the risk module. And so you can help create a risk register from scratch, automating that whole process instantly, or finding risks that you may have missed during the process. So why is this cool? Do you want to swap over, Doug? So it helps the project team be aware of all risks that could occur, reduces time spent on risk workshops, reduces the risk-related surprises on projects, and reduces time spent to spin up a new project in Mastt. So what I'll do, I'll give you a demo now of what this might look like. Share my screen. Try and turn it on for me. It says you're still sharing. Great, thanks, Doug. So here we have, just bear with me while I set it all up. Great. So here we have an example of the risk register. So this could be at the beginning of a project. We've got an empty risk register and you want to do your initial workshops to plan out and populate the register. So what we're going to do is, instead of doing it all manually, individually, I'm going to click this generate register option. And what this does, it brings up a form with a few parameters to put in. And so in this form, I'm letting the system know that it's a maritime construction, the location is Darling Harbour, and the value is $400 million. And so what will happen is these factors will get sent to our risk AI, and the risk AI will determine which risks from our library will be relevant to show you to populate the register. And the way we do this is through a technique called natural language processing, which looks at the language, the data, in a very human-like way. And so it can pull apart and make inferences much like we can. So I'm going to hit generate here, and we see that there's a suggested list of risks in this preview. So the system's found 55 potential risks. We've got a whole range of them here. Now, for each risk, you can accept it and have that one into your register, reject it, or skip it and come back to it. And you can see here there's a range of different risks. So we've got quite standard risks that you'd expect to see on any risk register, things like contractor fails to meet contractual obligations, or as we're all probably aware recently, COVID-19 delays. There are standard things that would probably belong on most risk registers. But we also have some very specific risks to the parameters that were entered. So we see here we've got submarine cable damage, erosion damage, tidal uncertainty, things that are very specific to a project that's near the water. And so our systems identified those as probably being relevant for this project. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to accept all these risks. And if I hit accept all, we can now see that all those risks have been accepted into the system, and the risk register has been populated with all these risks instantly. And so that saved a bunch of time for the project team in putting these all in manually. So the next one I'll show is now around data-driven lessons learned. So what are we doing here? So we've found that lessons learned do not tend to carry over into new projects. And so the Mastt system, we've got different data sources to help populate these lessons learned. The Mastt system has quantitative data on project performance, which we can use to suggest lessons. And project teams also have their qualitative lessons learned data that's normally hidden in documents. And so we're integrating both the qualitative and the quantitative data to provide our customers relevant lessons on their projects in real time. Why is this cool? Well, lessons are no longer trapped in documents and in people's heads. Mastt's quantitative data gives a new type of data-driven input for lessons learned workshops. And the lessons in Mastt can carry over to new projects, programs, and portfolios without being lost to time and forgotten in some document. So let's do a demo of what this looks like. Great. So what I have here is our lessons learned dashboard. And so what we have here, this is a WARF program. Again, the WARF project we looked at in the previous demo would roll up into this program among a number of other projects. And we see lessons coming from two different sources. So we've got the qualitative data, which I mentioned before. So the project teams can upload their lessons learned registers, and we will run machine learning over it to make it easily accessible. And that accessibility will mean that it's easy to search, easy to categorize, and earmarked for relevant searching in the list. And then we've also got the quantitative data. So this is data that our machine learning algorithms run over within Mastt over all the projects, programs, portfolios to predict potential lessons. So the algorithm will look at things like vendor performance, clustering of variations around interconnected data, and links between misscheduled milestones and other factors such as procurements, finances, or realized risks. So we've got a few lessons here, which we can see are already relevant to our projects and program. So we can see that from the Mastt data, where we have all the financial data, that all the projects that are related to maritime construction tended to be 30% over budget compared to projects that weren't. We can see that there was a clustering of risks around safety related causes. And we can also see that the Mastt data around variations were also clustered around certain vendors, in this case, Acme Group, the fictional Acme Group. And so the goal here is not to replace your lessons learned workshops, but what we want to do is augment the workshops with machine learning so you can get as many high quality lessons identified as possible. We also want to allow you to do small lessons learned check-ins anytime you want with up-to-date lessons. And then lastly, we also want to carry over your lessons learned from one project to another so they don't get lost to time. And with that, I'll hand back to Doug.
Cool. Thanks for that, Jamie. Yeah, it's really exciting to see the lessons learned part. I remember I used to always record my lessons learned in a spreadsheet, never to be seen again at the end of a project. And so just to recap, let's skip a little bit forward. So just to recap, the pathway that Mastt is taking towards, our product development. It's really all about, setting up our customers right with the governance processes and procedures from the beginning, democratizing all of that information so that anyone can get started running their projects efficiently and effectively for free, and obviously all available online. We've looked at how we can make governance easy by using the Mastt software so that the users don't have to worry or stress like I did, that is the work I'm doing actually the way my client wants me to do it. Just by using Mastt, you'll be interacting with the governance seamlessly and efficiently. And then to bookend all of that, how do we then give you back all of these lessons in a really easy to use system so that that information is no longer trapped in people's heads or trapped in thousands of spreadsheets and documents across an organization. So we're unlocking all of this valuable data for our customers to use to drive future decision-making, future value opportunities on their projects. And I think that's a new product that I've never seen else before in the industry. So we're really excited about that and working with all of you on how that comes together. And it's always nice to end on a quote. This is a quote from our customers at WSP who have said, Fergus said, "I have a feeling that after making the change to Mastt, I will never go back to how I run my projects at the moment." And Fergus is referring to his use of spreadsheets on multi-million-dollar capital works projects. Thanks so much, everyone, for your time. We're always happy to hear from you. So if you wanted to reach out to myself or Jamie, our emails are on screen. Please reach out. Any feedback, any questions on what you've seen today, or if you do want to receive a demonstration of the product from a member of our team, it's also available online. You can see a product tour on our website. However, if you want a demo, reach out hello@mastt.com, and I'll hang around for a minute just to listen to any questions that pop up in the chat. But thanks so much for your time, everyone, and we'll see you next webinar.